Hey everyone, Dan Deppin with Fusion Notes, and in this video I'm going to be going over conditional formatting. So if you've been using Excel for a long time, you may already be familiar with this feature, but I know some of the newer folks are not. When I was at the Fast Track back in February, somebody asked me, is there a way within Excel to color code the cells or change the formatting of the cells based on what the values are? And of course there are, so I took a note that that might be a good quick one of the quicker videos to go over that. So the example I'm going to give today where you might use something like this is, let's say you want to compare the rental rate for the assets to the P&I. The reason you would do that is you want to make sure if the rental rates in the area are much higher than what the payments are for the borrower, then they're going to be a little more likely to try to work something out with you, maybe do a modification, or if it's a performing note, continue to perform, because if moving out means paying twice as much per month, that's no good. So I've got an old tape here that I'll use, and so we've got our current payment, which I'll actually relabel to P&I just to make that a little more clear. And then to pull the rental rates, what I've done is I've gone into Note Pros. I'm not doing a video on Note Pros, so I'm not going to go through how I did that, but that website is spelled NOTEPROZ.com, and it's a subscription service, but you can go in there and copy a list of addresses of assets, and it spits out some data, which is what I've got over here, and I've just copied this into my tape. And one of the things it gives you is an estimate of the rental rate value. I'm not sure exactly where they pull this data on. It might be rentometer.com or probably something similar to that, but it can be kind of a quick, handy way to pull stuff out. So I'll copy my rental rate over here next to P&I so I can do a compare. And I'm just going to look at rent minus P&I to see what the difference is. And sometimes with Note Pros, it can't find the data, or there's some kind of error, so oops. So I'll do my Command D to copy that down. So I'll just kill these values and not worry about them. So now I can look at this and I can see, like in this case, P&I is actually more expensive than renting in the area. In some cases it's closer, in some cases there's a big difference. So the way I can use conditional formatting, I can do that in a couple different ways. So I can highlight the cells I care about, and then on the home tab up here I've got this conditional formatting menu, and there's a lot of functionality here. Typically what I do is just go to the highlight cell rules. So in this case, let's say I want to highlight everything that's less than 0, and then it gives me some options for how I can format this, and it defaults to this light red fill with dark red text, which I'll go ahead and I'll throw that in. So now it's highlighting the one that's negative. Now if I want to go and change a rule, go back to the menus, I can go to manage rules. I can also add a second rule, or I can clear them all out, and either clear them all out from the selected cells or the entire sheet. As you create rules, occasionally I'll have multiple rules for a cell. I would caution you not to go too bananas with setting up rules, and really just keep this simple. The purpose of this is just to give you some quick visual feedback. So in my example, I've got just 10 assets, but if you've got another tape of over 500 assets like the one I've been going through this weekend, then this can make your life easier. But let's go in here and we can modify this existing rule. Applies to, and actually why won't it let me change the format? That's interesting. Oh, edit rule. Sorry, I'm used to doing this on a PC most of the time, and I do these videos on a Mac, so sometimes the videos are a little different. But let's say instead of less than 0, I want to do less than some number, right? Because if you think about comparing the rent to the P&I, from the borrower perspective, they're not really apples to apples. Because if the P&I is the same as the rent, well, when you're paying the mortgage, you're also paying insurance and more maintenance and other kinds of things. So let's say I want to flag it when there's a difference of let's say 300. There's no magic to this number. I'm kind of just making a number. So that'll let me know that I have a big enough spread between those, and it's filling it in for these blank cells. But in that case, I would know that, okay, these are below 300. These other ones are higher. They're good. And then I can, of course, change the formatting. In some cases, if something agrees with the rule, that might mean that it's good. I might put in green text, or you can also go in here and create, whatever you want. You can go in here to custom format, and then you've got your normal formatting menu. You can make this however you want. Again, I caution you from getting too fancy with conditional formatting. I view it as just a quick tool to give yourself a good visual representation of something I might be looking for when I'm scanning through a really big tape. And then there's some other stuff in here. I don't really use these, but just so you're aware they're there, they may come in handy. There's this data bars, which I'm not a giant fan of, but if you use those, it actually puts a graph inside the cell. I've never used that for notes. I've only used it one time in my corporate job as a product manager, and that was because I had a boss at the time who liked dashboards, and he was really enamored with these kinds of fancy things. Fortunately, I don't work for that guy anymore. If we look at, actually, let's kill that rule, and then I wanted to show you the one thing that can be kind of neat sometimes is the color scales. So this gives you kind of makes me think of the Trulia crime map, overall. I don't really use that one, but it's kind of interesting. The one that is kind of neat, I haven't really used, but I'm thinking about using it, are these arrows. And I kind of like this definitely better than the gradient bars. So it just gives you kind of a quick thumbs up, thumbs down. And I haven't implemented it yet, but what I was thinking about this weekend as I was going through that big tape, and I went from over 500 assets down to about 120 that I was looking closer at, and a lot of that process involves, looking up pictures of the properties on Google Maps, and there's a lot of qualitative data that's involved. So I was thinking about creating a column like a 1 through 10 rank of how attractive the asset was, just based on the upkeep, pride of ownership, and then maybe another qualitative column based on the desirability of the asset. Is it close to university or whatever? Maybe I could put that into a 1 through 10 scale, and then I could use these arrows to compare different things. Anyways, I haven't done that yet. If I go ahead and do that, I'll make a video on that down the road. But in the meantime, that should get you going on conditional formatting. Again, just do your best to kind of keep it simple. Just know it's there. Don't go too crazy with it. All right, thanks.